Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. Welcome back. Oh, well, we're both excited to talk today.
Do it. Go. I don't want to fight over the mic. Let's do this thing, man.
Oh, man. You know, if you guys were at, last week's episode, you listened to it, you're going to hear a little bit of a different tone in my voice. And it's because the intentionality of what we're going to get out of this episode today is a feeling of growth. That's the overarching theme today, is the feeling of growth and the ability for Jerome and I to really step back, look at what's going on, make changes, and then get right back up on the horse. Not that I necessarily fell off, but what I mean by that is learning very quickly and then making those actionable changes. So this episode is 12.3 million. Last week was 6.8. So obviously you understand kind of where we're at. We're continuing to get closer to the $100 million mark. And I'm proud to say this month there's going to be a lot of growth in that capacity. And a lot of folks ask me about the commercial real estate space and how it's doing. And in my response right now is it's a perfect storm. There's a perfect storm of enough going on in Wall Street, in our politics, and that people have got to the point now where they said, enough. And I need to look for something different. So there's that perfect storm. There's also a perfect storm of looking at the last 12 months and being able to see data, how these assets have been operating. And, I have had more people reach out to me the last 2 weeks about commercial real estate than I can count. So that creates new opportunities and challenges, Jerome. But the overarching theme today, feeling of growth. Our episode is 12.3 million. We closed on a 42-unit apartment complex yesterday, and I'm very excited about that. So what do you got for me, man? What do we need to jump into? Yeah.
Wait, we got to sell. What did you do to celebrate closing on 42 units? Dude, you had 600,000 walk away. You raised that money in a week or two, and now you're back.
Yep.
Close, beat the chest. I didn't even get a celebratory chest beat or point to the sky or nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah.
You closed. And I know that we've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to celebrate and commemorate this close? Because it's a huge deal. You overcome tremendous adversity.
Absolutely. So on my daily habits tracker this week, it was, and I sent this to you, but celebrate your wins. Enjoy the process. And we were talking about James Clear, and we have an episode called Goals Suck, or goals don't work. And it's because systems do. But we are scheduled for next week to have a celebratory drink and get together with the FTW team. So every close, every success, we are celebrating now. So thanks for the push on that, my man. It was much needed. And so that's one event. But on a daily, habits tracker, I'm thinking through, okay, how do you celebrate your wins? How did you celebrate your wins? And a big piece of that is giving myself some grace on a regular basis, releasing, the pressure and just reveling in the fact that we got that done. I got that done. Not everybody could. And so really it's been a mental process for me, but we're also celebrating in person next week as well. So I appreciate the push on that.
Outstanding, man. Look,
yes.
we didn't release one of those episodes, but I just want to say, because it wasn't documented, I told you so. I knew it was going to happen. I believed in you, had no question, and we've got all the way through the finish line. I feel like I just closed the deal. I'm not making a penny off any of those deals. I'm glad that you guys closed. And just think about how you'll be able to reach in the cookie jar when you get and meet some friction or adversity in the future, and say and know without a shadow of a doubt that, okay, that's fine, no big deal, we'll move on to the next thing. And so that's outstanding, man. Absolutely outstanding. So we got to set the intention to define the outcome. Where are we this week? You know, we got the big win, but you know, what's the intention and the outcome?
So the intention this week is that feeling of growth and being able to identify that while you're going through the process. So we're going to talk a lot about that this week. I think the idea of where I was just 7 days ago and where I am now is not only feeling of growth, but the installation of confidence, of momentum, of the compound effect. And then the last thing that I'll say on one of the biggest learnings over the last week that we'll talk about more in depth is simply that I've been studying Charlie Munger every single morning. And Charlie is much more than just a financial investor. He is a thinker. He is a reader. And I've figured out now that really successful people have models. They have mental models, which we present a lot of those here, right? But the mental models that we present here are more focused around goal setting and productivity, which frankly is only 2 out of the 12, different buckets of mental models so my whole perspective has just been blown away this week because of finding that graphic that I shared on LinkedIn about different mental models that are out there, cognitive biases, goal setting, productivity, network building, all of these different things that help me and other people make decisions faster. And it's truth. It's rooted in truth. And that's what I'm seeking. Marcus Aurelius always talks about, hey guys, when he was out there speaking and he was an orator, he was a leader, but they're always saying, look, I am out there, this is the way I'm thinking about this. If I am wrong, please tell me, bring me the truth. The truth is what I seek. And so I've had this feeling of growth, but I've also had this perspective explosion that has created this continuation of my journey seeking out truth. And I'm very excited about that part too.
Man, expansion. And as long as you expand with the intention to apply, right? There's a lot of people who just want to consume stuff and don't ever want to actually implement. Implementation is what actually matters. So this is super exciting. So folks are going to learn more about mental models, your journey with Charlie, as we'll be able to call him a mentor soon.
Absolutely.
And so what was the affirmation for the week?
So the affirmation for this week is, and still has been, all around this notion that you are enough. And what I mean by that is, last week I continued to talk about comparing myself to my best version of myself, and that creating the same anxiety if you were comparing it to somebody else. And when I give myself enough grace to say, you are enough, what you are doing is enough, that's when the ability to let that pressure really started to happen for me. And so my affirmation this week is simple, 3 words: you are enough. And being willing to accept that fact, has been eye-opening for me. Infinite patience produces immediate results. Infinite patience produces immediate results. You are enough. That has been replaying in my mind, in my journal every single morning, Jerome.
Well, I hope you heard me say it, because I told you that. And, it's crazy. I can't remember which book it was in that I'm reading now, but I'm reading a book right now. And it basically says that high performers, apex performers, often tie their enoughness, because I don't have a better way of using it, my vocabulary is limited today, to their achievement in a given period. And we are constantly asking ourselves, what have you done for me lately?
Sure.
Right. And if we can't answer that question in the affirmative, then we start to question our worth.
Absolutely.
And we don't look back at all the successes that we've had and say, oh yeah, that's great, and we've done this or that, and maybe I'm just pacing or I'm taking a break right now. We are just continuously pushing and driving. And so knowing that you're enough and being enough, right? We're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that really got to me, right? You got to be the thing first, and you got to believe that you're enough, because as long as you don't believe that you're enough, then when you're doing this stuff, you'll continue to do things to try to prove that you're enough. And that just doesn't work, right?
Right.
You got to be there first. And then you end up being needy and desperate and doing irrational things to try to fill that hole of adequate. So
absolutely.
Huge, 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 huge. And so the personal development mantra you love, is there something there new?
It's been around habits this week and thinking through the cue, craving, response, and reward. So obviously diving back into Atomic Habits by James Clear, who is one of my favorite writers. His newsletter is incredible. I think he's an original thinker of our time. He's very pragmatic with his approach, and I really respect that. So really the personal development mantra has been around, how are you, when you do have a misstep, what triggered that misstep? What was that cue, or what was that craving? One of the two, right? It's like trying to be self-aware enough to see it. And then, implementing this simple response of, would your best version of yourself do that? And so the habit tracker that I've been adding on to, from previous weeks was, asking myself, before I respond or react to a situation, what would the best version of myself do right now? And, I know that sounds simple, but it's not easy, especially in the moment. And so for us, I think that, we hear that stuff, but actually practicing it on a regular basis is a different story. And so been tracking kind of the temperance piece, the asking myself, being self-aware before I get to the end result, making sure that hey, even though I've asked myself this and I said, would the best version of myself say this or do this? And if the question is no, and I still act on it, then I've got work to do, right? But that first piece is just being self-aware enough to understand and get those triggers put into my mental, state. So that's been the whole theme this week, is just being self-aware around the decisions that I'm making sure that I ask myself those questions before I take any action.
Beautiful. So the thing that comes to mind, right? We talked about this, and I just wanted on the podcast, right? You sent me the activity tracker.
Yep.
One of them in particular, I said, that's pass or fail. And you said, I wanted to be pass or fail.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Atomic Habits this morning, and it came back up. And James was basically saying you need to make those incremental goals, steps, improvements, because if you end up pass or fail as an apex performer, that's when you start questioning your adequacy again. So just don't let that get out of hand. Even if you decide to stay on the course you're going, know that, when you do pass or fail, it's not all things are black and white. You close the deal or not, that's black or white. You make a decision out of 100 that's not right, and you fail yourself for that. I'm not sure if you're being fair and kind to yourself. And so just keep that in the back of your mind. I think there are some things specifically tied to your morals and values that you're always going to want to make the right decision, and you will want to fail if you mess up on one of those things. But I think there's a lot of other things where it's not as big of a deal, and you just want to be able to extend some grace to yourself, because this is the thing that I learned the hard way, man. When you're playing at the level you're playing, you hold yourself to the standard, and there's going to be people around you who are close enough, but they're not playing at that same level, right?
Right.
And so they're going to come in, they're going to do things that aren't at your level, and you're going to have to make a really tough decision, right? And it's, are you out of this club, or do you continue to hang out? And I got really radical at one point, and I just was kicking everybody out of the club, and it was just me and the DJ at one point, and that is lonely. But then I wanted to fill the club with new people, and so just make sure, right, you're clear about not isolating yourself and alienating everybody around you if you do believe that they're part of your future, right? And if you know they're not part of your future, you're moving to a new place and you need new relationships to go there, great.
Yep.
Make room for those relationships. But if you know these folks are going with you long range, and it's a great lesson that I got from my mom and my dad. My dad, he was a commanding officer, or not officer, non-commissioned officer, and he would give an order at work and people would move. And then he'd come home and do the same thing with my mom. And she's like, honey, you're not at work anymore. That's not the way this works here. We're going to have a conversation and we're going to do this, that, and the third. And so, again, that apex performer level, you're looking for results. You're not looking for a lot of conversation. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Move on it, take care of it. But just know that there's going to be some people, if you haven't intentionally pruned the tree.
Yep.
That are going to be impacted by that, and it can be a little brash and hurt some feelings at times. And I know how much you care about people, so just keep that in the back if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a great point. I mean, and one that we will dive into more on some of the losses, because exactly what you're speaking to is one of my losses for the week. So it'll parlay perfectly. Yep.
Good. Well, I didn't know about that, so we'll get there. And so let's go into the top wins and losses for the week, man. Talk to me.
Yeah. So some of the wins this week, frankly, being able to create a business that allows the principals to have a salary. And this is a big deal. And I'm not talking, a small salary, right? I mean, it's a decent amount of money every single month, but having a business that's creating enough revenue that allows us to have stable income is a humongous win. We're no longer three just deal guys out there doing stuff. We have a business that's paying us on a regular basis. Now it's tied to what we're doing, but at the same time, that's a huge win, is to be able to create some feeling of stability, not only for myself, but for Taylor and our family as well. So that's a huge win, man. That's what I wrote down for one of the top wins this week, which is just awesome. And not to mention, this quarter we had that much revenue coming in, which is great. It's hard to replicate just because a lot of the deals kind of ended up closing in the same month. But looking at an actual budget and saying, okay, here's the revenue, here's expenses, after your guys' salary, here's still a really healthy profit. And if you knew me 12 months ago, we set back this, and 12 months ago we didn't have any of that in place, and frankly, it just feels really good to be building something with people that I respect, trust, and are on the same page. So that's a huge win for us this week.
And that's major. I mean, last year this time you had 34 doors or something.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
It changes pretty dramatically when you grow your portfolio where you can do that. Now, is that more tied to acquisition fee? Is that a combination of acquisition fee and deal proceeds? What makes you able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the deal flow is one big piece of it. The second piece of it is obviously passive income from our own investments are coming to fruition, which is good, meaning our deals are beating our preferred returns. And so there's income coming in there. We have asset management that, frankly, flows to an employee for us because we're managing the assets. And then we manage a ton of construction as well. So there's some profit built into the construction management as well of all of these projects. But really, it's just the notion of hey, you had 40 doors at this time last year, or 50, whatever it was, and now you have 850, and that's the big difference, right? Is the delta between those creates more income for the business.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be clear, guys. People aren't doing this for fun.
Right.
Everybody's working to build a business. And so if you can't make money from your business, then it's not a business.
That's right.
Right. And some people are delusional and think, hey, man, they should be willing to do this for free and they shouldn't make any money. And I'll be honest with you, if you're an investor and you don't want the people who are making the money for you to make money, then you're probably in the wrong business. So outstanding, man.
Outstanding. There's so many things that go into, doing these types of projects. And, frankly, and we could talk about this week or next week, but the 96 units that we'll be closing next week is going to be on the huge wins list. But what our investors pay us to do is continue to bring projects that appraise for 1.5 million more than what we're under contract for. Like that. I mean, if anybody has any reservation about our fees and the way that we've structured our projects, I say, well, just go find those deals yourself and get those over the finish line. Your equity in the project is worth double now because of what we did and the way that we negotiated the project. So anyways, there's a lot of other pieces to that puzzle, but happy to have that conversation with, well, anybody really.
Or not.
Yeah.
You're just not the right person and you can opt out. And we prefer that because it's a waste of time to talk to those folks. Anyway, so what's number two?
Number two is, finding and getting the team on board with our new marketing partner. And we've talked a lot about this, but figuring out who to work with on that front was a big win because we feel like we found a great individual that has scaled a lot of real estate investing companies before in the past. It's very niche to real estate investing. Has a lot of good ideas. It's going to open up capacity for me in the future as well. So that was a huge win, was solidifying that, getting started on the actual masterclass to help on the conversion of our investors. So big win on the operations side of the marketing piece of our business there.
Okay. Don't forget to send me that list we talked about so I can do some data analytics for you, just so we can see where the people are. And I think it'll make this even more granular so we can see the results.
So what we're trying to do before I send you that report is we're actually going to get into active campaign, and we need to get these people actually tagged and on the right list. So the thing needs to be cleaned up. And then because right now, if I run a report, yes, we'll have when they come in and kind of what they have done, but we don't have it even classified out to current investors, prospective investors. So that marketing partner is in our active campaign right now, working to get that list up, created to be able to pull that report, which will actually reflect some actionable data. So I'm focused on that. February 15th to the 26th, my calendar is completely blocked to do the masterclass, get the active campaign cleaned up, get that piece up and running on our website. So you'll be seeing that very soon. And the copy, by the way.
Yeah. The copy is a huge deal. That segmentation and putting it with the right copy is the difference between a mediocre response rate and one that just knocks the doors off. And
100%.
That's when you start raising money in 24 hours.
That's right, man.
That's the different game. So
yeah, somebody that is only interested in heavier value add is only going to get heavier value add deals, right? Like we're listening, we're sending you the deals that fit, and frankly, that's where you elevate yourself is. And you're not the only person that has told me that. Multiple people has. It's not easy to do. And frankly, everybody wants to shotgun it on everybody, but your investors, your prospects, your clients do not want everything. They want exactly what they told you that they wanted. So I'm glad to hear that again.
Well, and the great part is this is the actual manifestation of your gift, right?
Yes.
You like the individualization, and so when people come in and you treat them the way that they want to be treated to make them feel good, now you've been passing them into a place that isn't the same. Yes. Right. And so now you get to keep them in a cohesive process, and that cohesiveness converts.
Yes.
Right. Because it builds the trust, it raises the trust bar so quickly. So you guys are making the right investments in the right places from where I see.
Excellent, man. All right. So the next one is bringing on 2 new team members. So we extended 2 big offer letters, one to a full-time bookkeeper. She accepted and is starting on Monday. And then the second one is our director of operations. And so he is starting in April, but has already been coming into the office when he can to come into our executive meetings and start getting integrated on Slack and all of these different things. So those 2 new hires will be exponentially important as we continue to scale. So huge win to get those, what we feel like the 2 right people in the right seats to help us continue to get more capacity and serve our investors better.
Now that's 8 weeks out. Are you guys paying him for his meetings that he comes to, or how is that going to work? Because that's a long runway to bring somebody in.
Yeah, so the bookkeeper that's coming in Frankly, she has a lot more experience than just doing bookkeeping. So she's going to pick up a lot of the project-based tasks that he would be doing, even though it wouldn't necessarily fit his director of operations role. So she's going to play a stopgap for the next 8 weeks at least. And we're going to evaluate the first 4. If we need somebody else to continue to help Crystal with more capacity, we will bring on an additional resource. But we feel like we have a good strategic plan for those 8 weeks until he gets there. What I think is going to happen is these 8 weeks are going to allow him to really hit the ground running instead of taking another 8 weeks just to learn everything. So that's a big benefit to us right now. So kind of the onboarding that he's doing right now will allow him to come in and really start to operate, not day one, but at least we'll shorten that from 8 weeks, maybe down to 2 or 3 weeks, because he's been involved in the process. And I don't know if I'm not sure if he's getting paid or not right now. I'd have to ask Corey.
Yeah, just make sure you guys are clear on that, right? Because that can get funky because people, they act a little funny. And just be clear on the expectation is all I ask. Because that communication up front, when people are trying to figure out the relationship and doing the dance, they may not speak up. And so just want to absolutely make sure you guys are clear with folks and they know what to expect. Because again, going back to the trust thing, if you start that way, then the relationship will continue to progress. If you start off kind of rocky, then you got to have this reset. And we don't want to have any more communication games or miscommunications in this first quarter. So just something to think about and take care of. So is that 2 wins by itself? Is that 1? How are you counting that? Because I mean, hiring people is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's just 1 win. I mean, it's, frankly, I didn't think the bookkeeper was going to come on as quick as she did, but we realized that she was very eager and also willing, but also, with Danny not being available to us until April, we had to make that change. So yeah, I think it's just one win is just kind of growing the team and people wanting to work with us. We're having to basically filter, the amount of people that are reaching out to us right now, just to get around us and kind of get involved with what we're doing.
For sure. Now, the people who are listening don't really have an idea of how long you've been going through this process. We just kind of dropped them in the story.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been looking at people? You picked a director of operations instead of asset manager. Like, what was the process to get to this place where it's like, okay, send the letter?
Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 months, frankly, and we've been talking with him for that long on that piece. We really wanted to be careful and diligent with the right person coming on board. And, this person has, the opportunity to grow with us, but also has the experience of running his team, running, 100 transactions at once. And so that we just felt like it's a very good resource for us. And we wanted to take that process slow of meet everybody, kind of see what you'll be doing on a regular basis. Know that, hey, we are entrepreneurial. We do not have those systems and processes necessarily in place to the extent that we would like. They're built out. They're just not implemented yet. So we need your feedback on that. So that process took a lot longer than the bookkeeper, just because it's a different type of role and, it's not as task oriented necessarily. It's more strategic and task. So, but it's been a longer process, probably 3 or 4 months. The last 3 or 4 months just going through that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So guys, slow to hire, quick to fire.
That's right, man.
Get it. Slow to hire, quick to fire.
So the next win that we've got, man, is temperance around eating. And so I realized that I used to do intermittent fasting. And I was like, man, that really worked for me for a little bit, just controlling the eating. And so this week, there was a couple of days I didn't eat till lunch. There was a couple of days I didn't eat until I actually fasted for 24 hours. And what that did was just gave me the confidence to know that I was relying on food more than I actually needed it. And so now my eyes are reopened to say, yeah, probably don't need that, 5 eggs in the morning for breakfast. Now, today is a different day because I'm doing a lot of strategic work. I'm on video for 5 hours today. And so I did have breakfast because I needed that fuel, and I worked out yesterday. So trying to replenish. So, but just adding that tool back into my arsenal of temperance around the eating piece, it allowed me to make some good changes. And I'm excited to continue that part of that. So that was a big win for me, man.
How'd you feel? I mean, were you shaking? Were you hurting? Like, let's talk a little bit about the effects on the body.
Once you get to noon or 1, you're good, in my opinion. It's just making it from, since I do get up at 3 a.m. in the morning, making it from 3 to noon is usually very difficult. But I was extremely, intentional this week, but I was also very busy from an in-person meeting standpoint. So frankly, it was just really easy not to eat because I was meeting so many people. And I felt great, man. I felt clear. I felt light. I felt energetic.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
confident because I was able to say no to the food, the drink, all of that stuff. So it gave me a renewed sense of control over that part of my life, which I think outweighed any, actual physical, ails that I might have been going through. But no, I didn't feel really, any detriments to it whatsoever.
And the best part about this, Logan, is in the space where it would have been most stressful and you would have went to the food to soothe, you tuck it away,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That right there, that's where the monster comes out, man.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
that's it, man. Take the pacifier away, throw it in the trash. Here we go. I'm dealing with all of it. I'm feeling it all.
That's right, brother. That's right. So I know this list of wins is long this week, but it's just because it's I could have added more stuff on here, but we had some investors in town this week. Those meetings went incredibly well. Touring some properties. So that was a big win. Just I was prepared, I was knowledgeable, and the big insight from that was that I instill confidence in other people when they spend time with me about the commercial real estate space. So that was a great one. Going to the office and interacting with our team, is a big win because I need to spend more time with Parker, with Corey, with Crystal, with Lisa, with all these people now that we've got a real business. And I made a conscious effort to get there and spend time there. And that's been a big win from getting away from my comfort zone of my house and actually going into the office that we spend a decent amount of month on that I'm never actually at. So interacting was really, really big. We have at least one new deal in the pipeline, which I'm very excited about. So our KPIs of putting letters of intent in are panning out. We have a big commercial deal actually coming up, which I'm pumped about in a very developing area. And we have a new multifamily project to work on as well. So we actually have at least one, maybe two new projects to close in the next 60 days. So huge win there. Big benefit to that is obviously being able to forecast out some pipeline. And then, obviously we closed the Penn Valley apartment. So that was a big win for us. It was one that threw us a little bit of a curveball, but we stepped up to the plate and we hit it out of the park, and our investors are super, super excited about that. One thing I didn't mention on this wins list is I have a webinar coming up on Tuesday for our next multifamily deal, and it's already subscribed. I'm just doing the webinar to, I guess, show people that we have deals. And frankly, this will not come out. Well, this will come out before the webinar. So, but just know that we're also doing a Kansas City market update that day as well. So, but long story short, just having the interest to do that is very exciting. So that's another big win, man. So I kind of lumped all those in together, but trying to get through them.
That's outstanding. Let's talk about the opportunities.
Okay, so some of the losses that I had, man, was a big one. Taylor, I was very focused this week. Focused, also stressed. And I said stressed in the sense that I was just very business oriented for the first 4 days this week. And so Taylor told me that she felt more like a roommate this week than my wife. And so that was a loss for me, obviously, because I never want my wife to feel like a roommate. So that's definitely been something on my mind that I've been thinking about because I was so business oriented, so focused. And we had a chat, though. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe it was last night. I can't remember. That just said, look, I realize that I do a lot of unorthodox things that other husbands don't do, like, getting up at 3 a.m, doing that type of stuff for, almost every single day. And I just acknowledge the fact that I realize that it's not normal. And I appreciate you putting up with that and accepting that. But I also, I didn't push back, but I just said, what I am doing right now will allow us in 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how long it'll take, to live like I will never miss Bella's gymnastic. I will never miss Ezra's sports game. I will probably coach them. You can do whatever you want in life. We can give back, all of those things. We just had a really productive conversation around that. But the loss, so that was actually a win that I didn't talk about. But the loss there was I let it get to the point where I had to do that, right? That should be an ongoing process in my mind. Like the way that I live my life, she should feel that on a regular basis instead of it all coming to a head and saying, hey man, I'm your wife here. Give me some love, give me some attention, give me what I need and what you set out to do when you said those vows, So we fixed it, but I just don't want to get to that point, right? So that was kind of a loss, Jerome.
So, I mean, let's dig in a little bit here. Relationships level 2 in the red pill. And
yep.
This relationship for you is the most important relationship.
100%.
You don't dispute that. You don't shy away from that. And if anybody wants to challenge it, then you just move them out of the way so that you can stay true to, this is like core for you, morals and values.
Exactly.
And so you're making the coffee, you're getting the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Those things still happen this week.
They did.
So was it just that you were not present when you were together? What was the catalyst or the impetus for, hey, this doesn't feel romantic?
Yeah. It was, when I would wake up in the morning, I didn't go over and say, I love you, and give her a kiss. It was the small stuff, right? It was the small stuff that I usually do on a regular basis that makes her feel acknowledged and there. I just kind of, I was so focused on, hey, it's 3, I'm getting up, I'm going, I got to take a shower. Like, many people might not know this, but I wake up some days and I take shower at 3 a.m. because I got to get ready for a meeting at 9. And I know that, the rest of the morning is going to be, so just like showering at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, legitimately, and I forgot to shut the door and the light was on and she's sitting there trying to sleep in the middle of the night, like stuff like that I typically would not do or I would not overlook was I think the rub is at least what we kind of we talked through and got to. I still did the bottles every day and flowers and all of that stuff was still present, but it felt more methodical to her this week than it has in the recent past. And I know why. It's because when I am off balance a little bit, what do? I default back to machine mode, and I got to do this, got to do that. And it's a selfish thing that I have to be aware of. And so I think that was kind of the big difference, or at least the big issue that I'm working to overcome and make sure that we don't get to that, culmination of that. And that's easy fixes, right? I have to do the thing.
So did you guys implement or institute something to give her some guidance on when to step in so that it doesn't get to the place where it's a emotionally charged conversation? Hey.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, I think, Jerome. I recognized that in the moment, I made a choice to not do something that I typically do. So there is a choice there that I just decided not to do. So I don't think it was necessarily something she needs to do. It's just something that I have to be aware of and take the action that I typically do. And when I have a behavior change, she recognizes it very quickly, right? Because I'm very routine oriented. And so when I behave differently than I have in the past, that's magnified in her mind, like, is something going on? What did I do? All of that. Yeah. So I think that's it.
Okay. And I love that, right? The extreme ownership piece of, I got to own this. I got to take responsibility for my piece. All I'm offering is something that you can use to help you is, if you're having a conversation, you're in this mode where it's super high stress and I'm trying to get the last thing done. And the last piece of it is the hardest piece, is that question. And it's one question: are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? Because then it goes from the Incredible Hulk back to Bruce Banner. And it's like, oh, this person actually sees what I'm going through. They feel the change. And then it pulls you out of the chaos into the quiet place, the intimate place with her. And then it's like, okay, well, here's what's happening. You lay it out and this is what's going on. And one, it allows her to understand, because as you said, if you don't have that conversation, then she can make up all the stories in the world
Absolutely.
about what is actually going on, right?
100%.
And that is no fun
Are
for
you
anybody.
okay?
Yeah,
Love it.
just that one question, right? It changes the whole game, and it gets your attention because it's no different than a safe word. Are you okay? Because it communicates I care. It communicates that there's something wrong or off.
Yep.
And it tells you, oh, I better pay attention right now. It doesn't matter what else is going on. And I know you guys have family dinner and all this other stuff. And so, you've created those buckets of time where you're already supposed to be engaged, but that's a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're at the end of something, you can still wander. But when you hear that, for both of you, it's an opportunity to open the door, and it allows you to just lock in. Oh, all this other stuff, greatest noise. No, she's here. She's checking on me, right? That's big.
Absolutely, man. I love that. It's just very simple. Are you okay? And you do it in the moment, and you don't just overlook it. That's a key. I wrote that down on my journal. So if you guys are watching this on, frankly on YouTube or something, just know that I take notes during these things. So it's a big learning lesson for me. Okay, that's really the loss this week. I'm not trying to say that I was firing on all cylinders, but it was a good week. It was a good week, and I got to celebrate that, right? Like, hey, you had a good week, man. Now you still got the weekend. It's a big weekend. Little Bella's birthday is coming up. She's going to Disney on Ice tomorrow, which she'll get to see Moana and Coco and all of her princesses. She's going to flip out. It's going to be so much fun for her. We're going to go out to lunch afterwards, and we're going to spend Saturday night together as a family. And then Sunday is obviously the Super Bowl. Go Chiefs, wherever my Chiefs emblem is. And we're going to celebrate her birthday just a little bit there. And then Monday is the big day, right? This is going to be a big push for me on Monday, is to be able to fragment and step away. So frankly, I'm going to basically tell Parker, Corey, like, hey guys, I'm not checking my phone. Like, this is my baby girl's birthday. I talk about all of this stuff. I'll check it at, 7 p.m. when she goes to bed, but I'm checked out on Monday. So I've given that feedback to them. We've moved the executive meeting to Tuesday. Frankly, I'm very excited about just spending some one-on-one time with the family. So, but anyways, that's some things that I wanted to talk about, because it's going to be a big push for me next week, is to be able to actually disconnect on Monday, because she's only going to turn 2 once. Will she remember it? I don't know, but I will. So will Taylor. Yeah. And so
you have the pictures too.
Exactly. Everything is documented these days. So that's kind of the wins and losses, man. Do we want to jump into some learnings? I mean, there's been a lot of learnings that we've already talked about, but I wrote some specific ones down I wanted to share with some people. Yeah. Okay. So, Jocko Willing talks about discipline equal freedom. And as I have continued to read and educate myself about temperance, temperance and discipline are very similar, if not the exact same thing. So I'm usually oblivious to certain things. Like, I didn't know TP meant toilet paper until I was 28 years old. Like, I just never understood why I thought because they threw it up in a tree and it looked like a teepee, that's why people called it, TP. Maybe it is, but I didn't know it, realize that it was toilet paper, TP. I'm just oblivious to things like that, but I find them out my own way. And this week I found out that the whole thing that I've been talking about my whole life, the last 7 years, is discipline equals freedom. Temperance actually is a better word for me. Moderation is freedom. Control of that moderation is freedom. So that was a huge learning for me, man, this week. It was just a light bulb, kind of like those sound silly probably on the podcast here, but it was just a light bulb moment for me that I was just like, I got this. Yep. Like that now that makes sense, So that was one. The second one was, studying Charlie Munger. You guys just listen to me say this. And I write flash rolls for my business. Flash roll is just something that allows me to gain status alignment very quickly with people. But this is stolen from Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger's investment process and thesis, the way that he makes decisions is this. And this is what I wrote. We take a multidisciplinary approach to investing using non-business mental models that allow us to have a lattice work of decision making to have value creation over time. And so just things like that really start to make sense to me is really important. And I see that what we're doing in the commercial real estate space is very tied to the same way that Munger and Warren Buffett look at buying businesses and buying into businesses. There's intrinsic value and then there's market price. And a value investor, just like Howard Marks, just like Munger, just like Buffett, just like FTW, we're all focused on getting things at a discount, right? So like just studying that and having those, the word lattice work, like that's now in my vocabulary, right? Mental models, all these different things that are helping expand me. And I use these terms when I'm talking to investors and people are like, what did he just say? And then I'm on to the next thing. And they're like, that just gains that status so quickly. So it's using Oren Klaff's stuff in real time, which is very exciting to me. So I wrote down Munger will elevate you. And so I'm really excited just to continue to study him. I only get really through 1 or 2 pages a morning of his book because it sends me in 5 different directions of trying to understand what he said. I had to understand what lattice work meant. I had to understand what a mental model really was. It's a way of looking at a problem or a challenge and having a decision framework that you can use that to. So just continuing to do that was really, really cool. That was a big learning for me. And if I'm going to be studying anybody, I'm going to be studying James Clear and Charlie Munger this year. And it's impacting our commercial real estate investing firm, which is very exciting. So big learning there.
Love it. Love it. I mean,
okay,
I can't add anything there.
The last thing was, and that creates all that creates a margin of safety. So everybody talks about risk in the commercial real estate world, or they won't talk about risk, right? It's like they don't want to talk about the risk. Well, buying assets at a discount allow for a margin of safety when something does go wrong, not because if it will, when it does go wrong, how impacted are you going to be? And you talk a lot about that in all of your coaching and work with new multifamily investors. It's like you just cannot pay the same price as somebody else is willing to just because the market's willing to pay that. You have to have a margin of safety, and COVID really impacted that. I think brought a lot of that to light. So I'll stop because this is not a commercial real estate podcast. So I'll stop talking about that. But if you do want to learn about passively investing in commercial real estate, reach out to me. Okay. Anyway, so shameless plug. Here's a really cool one, man. Another light bulb. I had big light bulb moments so maybe we should have called this podcast the overarching theme, the light bulb week, but we have a real business now. And that's going to impact the way that I live my life. Meaning I'm in the real estate business. Yes. But now I'm in the people business. I'm in the business of people. I'm in the business of building a actual business. Is no longer 3 guys going around just putting deals together and doing them. We have people. We have salaries. We have expenses. We have a real business. And that was a huge learning from me, and which was really cool because it allowed me to have a lot of confidence in what we're doing. It created authority in my mind to say, yes, you guys have done some great things over the last 12 months, but you've done it in a way that you're creating it so you can continue to do it for the next 20 years. And when you set out to start a business that way, it's going to allow to have a foundation to continue to grow upon. I think what happens a lot of times is people grow so fast and then they don't have that foundation to go step back onto. And then when stuff happens, it all just kind of fizzles away. Well, we have a fiduciary responsibility. I use that word I use it very, I guess it'd be conservatively because I think it has kind of a bad rap now. But, Jerome, we have, $25 million worth of people's money that is in these real estate deals. We do have an actual responsibility to do the best that we absolutely can for those investments. Yes, going in and buying them right is one piece of it, but the second piece is investor relations, is operations, is the construction management, all of these different things. And now I actually have a framework to talk to investors on to say, we have the team to support that. And that has just continued to elevate my confidence when I'm talking to investors. And I think it just really, it's really starting to come to fruition with local big investors that are saying, they're knocking on the door saying, those guys are now to the point where we'll start talking to them. And that's a very exciting thing. So a lot of light bulb moments that kind of just clicked this week that I'm just kind of really excited about. I don't want to get too pumped up about them because I need to continue to work on them, but the light has turned on and my wheels are just spinning all of the time. So anyways, man, that's all I've got on the learning side.
Man. And I personally believe that's a great way to end the episode because this is huge. And I wouldn't have any hesitation using fiduciary, because I think there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who are not fiduciaries and they're just taking people's money and putting them in holes, and they have no idea that they are. And you
Yep.
guys are making sure that you're buying things with some margin so that when it goes wrong, you can fix it, right? Because if
100%.
there's no cushion, then everything gets scratched up. So, man, kudos to you. Killer week. I
Yeah.
think you absolutely earned the opportunity to take the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Right? All the work that you've crunched in. Make sure you hug on and love on your wife and tell her how
Yep.
much you appreciate her and thank her for her patience and her understanding, and just encourage her to, when she sees you in the grind, to
Yep.
pull you out every now and again and look you in the eye and make sure you're okay, and don't let you say, yeah, of course I'm okay, I'm good.
Sure.
No, I'm really asking, I really want to know. And just don't let you brush it off, because you need her to engage.
Absolutely,
She's your
man.
battle buddy. She's in the foxhole with you,
She is.
not just in, building a home, but in life. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's major, major, man.
So I want to end with this quote from Conan O'Brien, believe it or not. He's a talk show host and a humorist, is what he calls himself. However, I really liked this quote, and it goes like this: whether you fear it or not, disappointment will come. The beauty is that through disappointment, you can gain clarity. And with clarity comes conviction and true originality. And I tell you what, if that doesn't take the last 2 weeks and sum it up for me, I just don't know what does. The disappointment that we had turned into clarity, which turned into conviction, and then it paired with confidence. And I'm on this quest to continue to be truly original. So I'll leave everybody with that beautiful quote from Mr. Conan O'Brien.
Dude, this is phenomenal. 12 point what?
12.3, my friend. 12.3.
One
Rocket
word.
ship.
Yeah.
Till next
Here
week,
we
guys.
go.
Thanks for tuning in. Hey, compressors. If something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.